Good evening. We are at 5:31, so I'm going to go ahead and call the first meeting to order, and we will get started with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And I see Robbie walking.
All right, we'll go ahead and get started with the first portion of this evening. Good evening, everybody. Those 3 or 4 people that are in the crowd this evening. My name is Marco Aliberti, the Superintendent of Schools, and I'm here to talk a little bit about our proposed SRRF project at the Libby Tozier School. SRRF stands for School Revolving Renovation Fund, just for those of you guys that aren't familiar with that acronym. And I'll just go through this short presentation and then open it up to any questions that you may have in regards to the project itself. So we'll go ahead and skip to the next slide. All right, so the topics that we'll be covering this evening is what is SRRF, again, School Revolving Renovation Fund. We'll be taking a look at the project award and the scope of the work that will be proposed. Our payment obligation, if it is so approved by the voters at referendum, and again, once again, any questions that you may have. To the next slide. So the first section that we'll look at there is what is SRRF? And if you go to the next slide, thank you so much. So again, just to repeat myself for a third time, SRRF is a School Revolving Renovation Fund. These are put out by the Maine Department of Education. They're interest-free loans with partial forgiveness to the loan. They are primarily for health and safety upgrades to school buildings. As we know, additions and new building projects are extremely costly to the taxpayers. This is a nice split between the state and the local taxpayer. So it is an alternative way to fund building improvements. The next slide. We worked with Harriman Associates, that's part of the application process, for an engineering firm to work with us to make sure that the application is correct and signed off on. So they assist us in the application process. They identified past successful projects for us, so they took a look at all the award winners from years past and prioritized things that might get approved at Libby Tozier School. And so they also did some site visits and inspection of the building. So I provided a recommendation to the board, and the board approved that recommendation to move forward to referendum again on June 9th. So the recommended project and approved project, again, to move forward was for secure entrance and vestibule. So it's a security project at Libby Tozier School. And that application was submitted on October of 2025. Our next section is around the award and scope. So you can skip to the next slide. Thank you so much. So we were awarded the grant in February of 2026. Total amount that was awarded was $771,433. And the work to be completed will be completed prior to next school year, and that includes the following work. So we'll be looking at building a new security vestibule and entrance, including doors and a transaction window. The administration main office area would undertake modifications to provide the main office with direct oversight and access to the occupants at the security transaction window. The entrance to the school receives some updates to improve wayfinding and identify the main entrance so that anyone visiting the school doesn't end up at another set of doors looking to get in. Door monitoring is added to all exterior doors. When these doors are opened or propped, a notification is sent to the main office. And last but not least, card readers are added to select doors that are regularly used by staff, as we currently have an outdated fob system that is running the main and rear entrances to the building. This is run off of a computer that's underneath the secretary's desk, and if the power goes out, it means the fob system does not work. And so there's only limited access with a key to the main entrance and a set of doors at the rear of the building. So the next slide talks a little bit about, if I can turn my paper, payment obligation. The slide after that is just the split, as I said to you earlier. You could take a look. The split here is state and local. It's 62.92% on the state side of things, and we pick up 37.08%. So the loan that's forgiven is about $485,000, and the loan repayment is $286,047. That is a 10-year zero interest loan at a payment of $28,604.70 annually. And that's it as far as what I have to present to you. Short and sweet and to the point. If you have any questions in regards to the project itself, I'm happy to try and answer those. I also have Director of Operations here, Sean Knox, he's over here, and our business manager, Samantha Garnick-Cyrus, sitting next to me to answer any of the questions that you may have.
Bob English, resident of Wales. Glad to see so many familiar faces hanging out, continuing to serve your communities and the children of our communities. Thank you for that effort. I suppose it's not on. Is that why you're walking here? Like a rock star, got to swallow it? Okay. All right, so I won't repeat all that. I think you heard it up front. So this looks like about a 1.2% increase in the budget. Well, at 28,000. So on a $20 million budget, that's a little over 1% of increase in local taxes for next year.
Hold on, just back up a second, Bob. So are you asking me what is the percentage increase to the budget?
It's more of
based on this, or what percentage of?
More of a statement that I believe it's a little over 1% increase in local tax dollars that is not included in the budget that we're going to discuss later today?
No, it is included.
So that's included in the budget later
Correct.
Today?
Yep.
All right, so
Correct.
this will be an ongoing for 10 years. Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Follow up. So since this hasn't passed, you put it in the budget. I suppose during the budget process, you're going to explain where that lies in the budget. So in the next presentation, it's 6:30?
That's correct. Yep.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions?
This is my first meeting.
Can you just introduce yourself
sure.
and say what town you're from,
Sure,
please?
Jody Bradstreet from Sabatis. I don't really know what to ask. I guess I just wanted to come and see what this project is all about. I have a daughter that goes to Libby Tozer and another one that would be coming through in after the next year. So does this mean, so you're proposing this, it is, we're voting on whether or not it will happen? Is that 6:30 or 5:30?
So this project in particular is a separate ballot item that is voted on at referendum.
Okay.
Okay, so it'll be on the referendum vote on June 9th. So
Okay.
you'll vote, there's two ballots. There's one for the school budget, and then there's one for this specific project.
Okay. On the 9th. On the 9th?
Correct.
June 9th.
Yep.
Okay. Can you explain the difference between,
Yeah, it's just a, yeah. Sorry, go ahead.
can you explain the difference between what the current security system is versus this? Because I know I have to buzz in when I go to our school. I don't know much about like the backdoor
Sure.
security or anything like that. Could you explain that?
I can do the best I can to explain it.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. So currently, there's a system there for buzzing, people in and out. The sight lines for that are extremely difficult, and I say that just because of where the administrative assistant sits and the way that her desk is built in. Opposite of that, there is a viewing window, but it's at an angle to look outside at anybody that might be approaching the building. So what this does is it solves a couple of different problems. The first is that it allows for the administrative assistant to have direct access to anybody that might be approaching the building, first and foremost, right? From there, in order to enter this, what's called a secure vestibule, so basically like an entryway, they have to be buzzed in, like you just mentioned. From there, once they're in that secure vestibule, they can't go into the school building until they're buzzed in again.
Okay.
And the reason for that is because we would like to have all transactions for, people that might be dropping things off or, need to pick something up, to just use the transaction window instead of coming into the building, where once they're into the building, they have access to the entirety of the school.
Yeah.
So that's the purpose behind the program.
Okay.
The other thing is too, we do have, as you know, you have little ones, right? So they can be squirrely, and sometimes we have students who elope, right? So they leave the building. So if students do leave the building, it does as the doors open. If there's a door that does get propped open or open when it shouldn't be open, we get notification in the main office that that's taken place, so that we can make sure we have eyes on all of our kiddos. That's another concern that's there.
Does the door, is this a system where like you enter the first door, you said the second one doesn't open until the first one shuts?
It's not till the first one shuts until you're buzzed in to the
again.
second one, correct.
And what was the system on the other exterior doors?
It is a buzz-in system also. Is that what you're asking? Yep.
Yeah.
Well, how you currently work?
No, like the other exterior doors that aren't like the main entrance doors. Like if somebody were to approach a back door, what is it currently versus what is it?
They can't enter the doors as it is. They're locked. There are cameras in place so that if somebody were to approach there, we would be able to keep eyes on that way.
Okay. Do the doors automatically lock from the inside?
Yes.
Okay. And you were saying with the new system, there was a key card or something?
That's correct, yeah. So currently, and I don't know, next time you go to Libby Tozier, you'll notice it as you go to the little button to push to get entrance. There's a black strip there, and there's a little fob. I have one on my keychain here. This little fob opens the door. You just put it up against it, and it unlocks the door so that you can gain entrance to the building. The issue with that is it's run on extremely dated technology. I said it's run by a computer underneath the administrative assistant's desk. It's old and it's antiquated. If the power goes out or if the system needs to reboot, it means that there's minimal access to the building and minimal keys that are doors that are keyed there. So it just helps with overall access to the building for those who should be in the building.
Okay. So the exterior doors will just remain the same as the other ones besides the main entrance, just going to be always locked at all times.
Correct.
Like they are now. Okay. Okay, I guess that's it.
Great, I
right,
appreciate
thank
the
you.
questions. Thank you.
Didn't we have upgrades to the exterior doors as well? Also there was an alerting system if one was ajar.
Yep, I did
Yeah.
mention that. Yep,
So there's some upgrades to the exterior doors too
yes,
in
yeah,
this project.
that's correct. Yep, I'm sorry if I wasn't clear, I appreciate it. Thanks, Scott. Yeah, no worries.
So being the numbers guy, you said that this 28,000 a year is in this budget.
Yes, the first payment, the 28,000, correct.
And we're going to vote separately whether to approve the revolving loan,
Correct.
and that's going to have dollars attached to it.
I'm not sure I don't believe so.
So we're going to approve the second vote on the 9th is just to approve a loan with no numbers of what it's going to cost. That's what you're going to let the taxpayers or the residents to go and vote on?
Thank you. So the numbers are on the ballot. Thank you for the clarification, Sam.
So if they are, then you're approving it twice. Because if the school budget passed with everything, that includes 28, and the voters approve 28, you've got 56. Or if you pass the school budget
No.
and don't pass the revolving loan, you still got the 28,000 because it's still in the budget.
That's correct.
Even though the voters have turned down your revolving loan.
Mhm. That's correct.
It just doesn't bounce true to me in that you're putting it in this, and if it fails, you still got your money, all right? But who knows what's going to happen at the 6:30 meeting. But assuming that this budget gets passed as it is, you're going to ask the voters to approve this $23 million budget, includes that, and then you're going to ask them to also approve another item for 28,000 to give you authority to also raise an additional 28,000, because that's what it would do if the voters approve it. So it looks like you're double dipping.
No, that's not the case. We're not double dipping. And I just would say too, right, like we're being fiscally responsible. If it does pass, we have the money in the budget to make that happen. If we didn't have the money in there,
You're raising it by a separate article.
No,
You do
that's
that all
not
the
correct.
time.
But that's not correct, Bob.
So the ballot that will go to referendum for the SRF is the voters authorizing the loan, right? So it's not raising the funds. It's not a warrant article that's raising the funds. It's not raising it for that referendum and then raising it separately in the ballot. It's approval of the loan, which we have to do by statute. That's one ballot. And then the monies to be expended on that loan are in the budget, so that if that ballot referendum passes and the voters approve the loan, then we have the monies in the budget to cover the loan payment. So we have to get approval from the voters for the loan, and then we are asking the voters within the budget to support the loan payment that goes to referendum as well.
And so if the voters turn down the loan, you still have the money, and hopefully that will end up in fund balance and not spent on some other items, because you're already dipping into fund balance on this budget by an additional 50,000 over last year. So I just want to be clear that we're not trying to raise the money twice.
No, I appreciate that, the clarification, but no, we're not. Yep.
Marco.
It's like, where did that voice come from?
Hello. Do we have digital copy of the layout of the vestibule that we could put up on the screen?
I mean, I think I can get one. I have the application. I can share it with Stephanie, so at least you could get an idea of like where it's located,
Yeah.
you know, what it might look like. There's not like artists rendering at this point in time. Do you know what I mean? Because
Yeah.
they won't do that until we get going with that process. But at least to give the people an idea of like, I can do that. Just give me 1 second to get
Yeah.
that up there, okay?
Rocky from Sabatis. So you said with the new vestibule, the administrative would be have a window in between the two doors so they can see better who's coming in, and that way, because I know sometimes there is a little bit of lag time when you go to pick up your student from school, because she can't really see you, and if you're not facing in the right direction with the sun over your shoulder properly for the camera to pick you up, she has a hard time seeing you. So it's ultimately it's providing more safety and security for our students, as well as, I mean, I work at a behavioral school, so I know about elopements and the door alarms and monitoring system, I get that. Also, another key, the way that I understand it, another key factor of adding that money into the budget now is because from what you said, we have to have this work, if it's approved, completed before the start of next school year?
That's correct, yep.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure.
No, I appreciate the clarification, thanks. We'll get that picture up. Sam was able to find at least the layout of the building, give you an idea of where it's at.
Hello, I'm Libby from Litchfield, and I just had a question. Being the registrar of voters there in Litchfield, I know that there's going to be a lot of questions about this, and you know how you guys have the reference sheet that we give everybody for where each amount goes. Will you have something also for this? Because I know there's going to be a lot of questions about it.
Do you
Something that
mean like
we
a-
could reference.
Like just a one pager, like that, like what's the
Yeah.
project, what's the cost, that
Yeah,
kind of stuff? I mean,
because
it's something we can put together pretty quickly.
Yeah, I'm just wondering, I mean, I probably could too. I just was wondering, it's just helpful when people start asking, I want to
Sure.
make sure that I give them the proper information, and some really good questions have already come up. And so I'm just thinking that that might be helpful for people, because they're not, obviously not used to having two separate ballots from the RSU, so
Mhm.
there'll be a lot of questions
Yeah,
about
no, I
that.
appreciate that. I don't think that's an issue whatsoever. We can get that out there.
Okay.
I think the last time we did a project was 2023. It was for ADA compliance. And then before that, it was a little while. It was the Oak Hill High School. It was the roof here at the building. So it's been, it's intermittent, that's for sure. It's not a regular occurrence, so
Right.
I don't see that being a problem. We can get you something.
So in reference to what you just mentioned, the last time that we had, it didn't pass, correct?
It did.
It did? The
Yep.
SRF did pass?
It did.
Okay, all
Yep.
right, because I was going to say, well, what happened with that? How did we end up coming up with money? So
Yep.
it did pass
It
last
did.
time.
Yep.
Okay.
And we had
All
a
right.
ADA project at Libby Tozier. So it was a bathroom, just to incorporate a ADA compliant bathroom
Okay.
there at the school. And so that project was completed this summer.
Okay, great, thank you.
You're welcome. Do you want to come to the microphone and ask your question so that people that are tuning in know what's going on? Yep.
So didn't Harriman present you with a drawing of what the project was going to look like, and you had to submit that to the state?
Yes.
I believe that is what
That's what
she,
we're
she would need to go and
That's what-
inform people about, here's what it's going to do, here's what it's going to look like. And
Bob, that's what we're doing right now, is getting that information up.
yeah, so
Here we go.
that's the helpful part, and especially if it I mean, there's a lot of spaces in there that's not gonna be touched by this. So indicating exactly where the changes are going to be on anything that you hand out or provide would be probably most beneficial.
Yeah, I appreciate that, Bob. So as you can see here, thank you so much for zooming that in, right? So this is the existing entrance, you know, here. This whole section here where it's hashed in orange, you can see there's the existing entrance, but then you can see this is where those vestibule doors would start. This is where they'd be proposed another set of doors here. This is what we were talking about, that second door that you needed to get buzzed into. And then there'd be modifications to this office area. Again, there is an existing window here, but as you know, Rocky astutely pointed out that the sight line is not good out the door, and plus where the buzzing system is located, if you're not looking directly into it, you have a hat on, glasses, sunglasses, the sun's over your shoulder, it can be extremely difficult to see who's at the door there. So that alleviates all of that. And so here would be a new vestibule window. My guess is that the administrative assistant's work area would be shifted closer to this so that there is now much better sight line to it. And there'll be a transaction window here, just like if you were at a teller at a bank, right? So you drive up and you'd be able to, do your business through that little window there. And so it's very common. We do have this system over at the middle school currently. That's how they work, with people coming in and out of the building, and it works well. And again, it was a project that's approved and, was, something that I think would be beneficial to the building. So just this is helpful here, hopefully, to get a visualization. There's not like any artist rendition of it or anything like that as of yet, but if it's approved, we'll have that up so people can take a look at it.
Rocky from Sabatis again. So with that, can we make that picture smaller again real quick?
Yeah, can you just, thank you. Yeah, you're good.
All right, so you're going to be putting in the key entry back for the parking lot entrance in the rear as well? And then the recess door, are you doing one there as well?
Yeah, I appreciate it, Rocky. Thanks for.
I was just-
No, it's good. I'm glad that you pointed it out because we were focused on the entryway there here, but this is the rear, exit of the building here, and where staff park can come in, and so there would be a key system here, and additionally, there's one here, and no, it's down farther here. Is that correct? Down here, where this is. No, you're good. All right, now you guys are fooling around. So here is where the kids go out for recess, and so that would be another key reader here. There's a couple of spots there. If the doors will work with that system, then we'll put them in there. There's a boiler room here. This also goes out to the parking lot this way.
I think you have up top as well, Mark.
Thank you very much. And there's some here. Thank you. Go ahead there, Doug.
We did discuss this a little bit during one of the regular board meetings, I think in February time, right? If somebody wanted to watch the YouTube video for that, to
Yeah,
get some
that's
background knowledge as well.
Yeah, I appreciate that, Doug. Like you just said, right? I mean, we do have everything archived, so if there was like further information or to hear from Harriman Associates when they came in and talked to us about the program, you're absolutely right. I can't tell you exactly which meeting it was,
I
but
can't remember
I
either.
mean, again, the application was submitted in October, so I feel like it was probably at the beginning of the school year that we went through this process.
I think we were doing budget talks kind of concurrently, so I feel like it was like February, March that we kind of
This budget
about
is
it.
March 18th.
March
Special
18th.
meeting agenda.
Okay.
Oh,
So, just for everybody paying attention or listening, they can go through if they want to watch that video too. We kind of discussed it
sure.
as well. So,
I appreciate that, Doug. Thanks for your help. Feel like, Bob, you should have stopped by the office. You and I could have just had a conversation.
Yeah, I could have. I drove by there today, too. So the main entrance, you've got two sets of doors. The outer door, is that freely opened
Currently?
under this proposal?
No.
So, but you said the receptionist won't be able to see out there, she's gonna see in between?
Both, Bob.
Okay, all right, so sitting at her desk at the window, she'll be able to see
Correct.
people coming
That's right.
as well as once they're inside and conduct business or
That's
whatever.
correct.
All right, just looked like maybe wouldn't be able to see who's walking up the steps.
Mhm.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Go ahead, Doug.
I think another addition with the windows is they were bulletproof glass too, right? Like it wasn't
Yeah, I don't know that anything's, I mean, what do I know about bulletproof
bullet
glass?
resistant. I'm sorry, bullet
Yeah,
resistant. It was-
resistant, yeah.
But it was something like that. It was improved strength glass.
There you
as
go.
opposed to what we currently have.
That is correct.
Just another detail that stood out.
Yeah, thanks. Sean's whispering to me. He's telling me that it's a spec glazing on the glass.
Which we don't currently have.
That's right. It's not currently there. Yeah. This is fun. You guys got any more questions? This is great. Come on, keep going. Bob, anything else? No? Oh, come on. Get them all out of the way now. Oh, Diane, got to turn it on.
I do believe when we looked at pictures of the current condition of the doors, they at some time would need to be replaced.
That's correct. And actually, I'm sure if Stephanie was to scroll down, you can look at the condition of the doors.
Right.
Yeah, right. It's perfect, right? I know it's a little hard to see just given the fact that the lights aren't are on, but you could see, yeah, they're rusted out there at the bottom, and then the picture below is the same. Yeah. And it's just years of use, right? Gives you an example of like, you know, what it looks like. This is the main office here. Oh, looking down the hallway or looking towards the entrance itself. So you would exit the building there. That just gives you an idea of what it looks like. I appreciate that, Diane. Thank you. All right. Any other questions? Comments, concerns, inquiries? Nicole, you going to say something? You're grabbing a microphone. What you got?
I was getting ready to adjourn if there were
Oh.
no questions
Okay.
or further discussion. All right, 6:05, we are adjourned. Thank you, everybody. All right, we are at 6:30. We're going to go ahead and ask everybody to get settled in so we can get started. Yeah, those clocks here are a little behind.
I am old when I'm like getting in the next 10 years. Monument. Say it like I'm like young.
Okay, we're gonna call the meeting to order, guys. Thank you. We are now officially in our meeting. I've called it to order. We're gonna go ahead and get started with the Pledge of Allegiance. If you wouldn't mind, please standing. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, well, thank you very much. I appreciate everybody showing up this evening for our public budget meeting, and I am going to turn the purpose of the meeting and details regarding what we're going to go through to Marco Aliberti, your superintendent. Thank you.
Thanks, Nicole. Appreciate it. Good evening, everybody. My name is Marco Aliberti. I'm the superintendent of schools here in RSU 4. And on behalf of the students and staff of the school district, welcome to our budget hearing this evening. We've got a fair amount to get to. I'll open with a few words, just a welcoming statement, just in regards to the budget itself. And then we'll go from there. As far as the purpose of the meeting, which I guess I just kind of stated, introduce the board of directors, and that we'll get right into business as far as the warrant articles are concerned. It is with great honor and respect I serve as superintendent of schools of RSU 4. In my first year as superintendent, I have learned a great deal and would like to thank everyone associated with the school district for their patience and grace as I continue to learn the role. More importantly, I would like to thank all of you for your continued support of our students and staff. The district is poised for continued progress with our proposed budget. A few highlights include a new science, technology, engineering, and math or STEM unified arts program for our youngest learners, kindergarten through 4th grade, one-to-one iPads kindergarten through 12th grade, a new English language arts curriculum kindergarten through 8th grade, and a proposed new entry and secure vestibule project at Libby Tozier School. All staff involved in the development of the budget have worked extremely hard to provide a budget that meets the needs of our students and is fiscally responsible to our communities. The budget has increased a modest 1.57% from last year. In order to achieve this percentage, 4 positions were reduced with minimal impact to programming. Administrators and directors developed their individual budgets with essential needs in mind, and creative use of grant funding was utilized to alleviate the local tax burden. Regional School Unit number 4 has much to be proud of: increased test scores, a high graduation rate, small class sizes, and a commitment to the success of our shared communities. And I thank you all for being here this evening to be part of the process. As far as the purpose of the meeting this evening, as I stated just a moment ago, it is our public budget meeting. We'll be going through the articles, or the warrant articles, in just a moment. But before we do that, we will introduce, I'll have the board members introduce themselves, and then we'll move forward from there. So let's see, who shall we start with? How about you, Matt, if you don't mind? Then we'll go right down the line. If you wouldn't mind saying who you are and what town you represent.
Matt Early from Wales.
Doug Bumpus, Litchfield.
Dennis Matt from Sabattis.
Diane Whalen, Sabattis.
Christy Willett, Litchfield.
Robert Gayton, Sabattis.
Scott Fife, Wales.
Nicole Russell, Sabattis, and Chair.
Teresa Medor, Litchfield.
Great, thank you very much. We'll move on to the next slide, which is Article 1A, and this is to elect a moderator. So we'll go ahead and start with taking nominations from the floor. There's a nomination for Randy Greenwood.
Second.
Thank you. There's a second. Just need to have, I believe, if I remember correctly, I need to have 3 members from the voting community to make their way. Oh, I'm sorry, I have to cease the nominations, don't I? It's probably a good idea. Are there any other nominations for moderator this evening? Thank you for that. Thanks, Bob. Appreciate that. So at this time, we'll close nominations, and if I could have 3 members from the voting community make their way back to Sharon. She has 3 ballots there. Go ahead and cast your votes. Anybody else feel the need to vote? We'll declare the ballot box closed. I appreciate all the audience participation and support this evening. Thank you. All right, Randy Greenwood, come on up. Exactly, it's unanimous. All right, I'll go ahead and swear Randy in. I state your name. Do swear that I will faithfully discharge.
Do swear that I will faithfully discharge.
To the best of my ability.
To the best of my ability.
The duties incumbent to me as moderator of this annual budget meeting.
The duties incumbent upon me as moderator of this annual budget meeting.
Well done. According to the Constitution and laws of the state.
According to the Constitution and laws of the state. So help me God.
It's close. And that I support the Constitution of the United States and that of the state of Maine.
And I support the Constitution of the United States and of the state of Maine.
So long as I shall continue a citizen thereof.
So long as I shall continue a citizen thereof. So help me God.
Excellent. Great. Thank you.
All right, good evening and thank you. Can you all hear me? All right. At this time, I need to have the ballot clerks sworn in. If I could get them to come forward and get you sworn in. Where's Sabatis? So it's just you two. So you could write your name there. And then sign there. I'll take it from there. You can hang on to these to kind of follow along. All right, I'm going to swear you in if you'd raise your right hand. I state your name. Do swear that I will faithfully discharge, to the best of my ability, the duties incumbent upon me as clerk of the annual budget meeting, according to the Constitution and laws of the state, and that I will support the Constitution of the United States and of this state, so long as I shall continue a citizen thereof, so help me God. All right. All right. I'll recognize, just go over a couple of housekeeping items. As our guide for tonight, we'll be using the main moderator's manual, A Guide to Town Meeting. Hearing no objection, it is so ordered. I'll recognize the chair of the school board for a motion.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. I'd like to motion to allow non-resident administrators to speak this evening, being Marco Aliberti, Samantha Garnett-Sayas, Shelley Mogul, Sean Knox, Stephanie Weber, John Springer, Jedney Hudner, Jan LaValle, Michaela Stevens, Justin Kelleher, Brian Daniels, Mel Gagnon, Sue Rennie, and Jim Palmer.
Is there a second? It's been seconded. Any questions or discussion? Seeing none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor, please raise your paddles. Those opposed? That motion carries. Will there be an overview of the articles?
Yes,
Presentation.
there will be an overview of the articles.
I will turn it over to you, Mr. Alberti.
Sure, let's do it. Okay, if you wouldn't mind, thank you, Stephanie. So Article 1, Cost Center 1, this is regular instruction. And so I'm just gonna read what's included in regular instruction. All right, yep, that's good, right? Oop, yep, nope, back one. Nope, yep, there you go, perfect. We'll just do it right from the title slide. Thanks, Stephanie. So Article or Cost Center 1 is regular instruction. This includes the following areas, if you will. Education teaching staff, that's our pre-K through 12 classroom teachers, unified arts, art, music, health, PE teachers, multilingual learner teacher, gifted and talented teachers, alternative education teacher, educational technicians, pre-K, kindergarten, and gifted and talented, our deans of students, substitutes for the above programming, classroom supplies, instructional materials, textbooks and periodicals, classroom books, classroom furniture, field trips, release, maintenance agreement, dues, fees, and travel reimbursement. And if we slide to the next slide, there we are. You can see the recommended amount. Our directors recommends a yes vote. You can see the increase is $130,187 or 1.61%. How's that, Randy? Is that good for an overview?
Are you done?
I am done, sir.
And we will move on. I was trying to get my paperwork caught up here.
You're good.
All right, just as a general guide, I will be reading an article. I will look for a motion. I will ask for a second, and then there will be a chance for discussion. If there's discussion, we'll discuss. If there's none, we'll call for the vote. If you don't like what the motion was and you want to move something different, you would then request to make an amendment, and then that would need to be seconded to be discussed. And we'll be discussing that. And I'll go as far as an amendment to the amendment before we can kind of call it and rally in some votes here, because I don't want to get too far out should that occur. So we'll go as far as an amendment to the amendment before we actually call for a vote. All right. Article 1, to see what sum the RSU will be authorized to expend for regular instruction. The school board recommends $8,212,299. Motion, please. It has been moved. Is there a second?
Second.
It has been seconded. Any questions or discussion? Yeah, if you could come to the mic so the viewing audience could also hear.
Nancy Berkheimer, Litchfield. You mentioned that there were 4 positions that you were cutting.
That's correct.
Is that in this section of the budget?
That is correct. Sorry, two of the positions are in this.
2 positions are in.
Correct.
And how does the recent law on minimum salaries of teachers affect this budget
It
at
does
all?
not.
Okay.
Nope.
And are there pay increases for the teachers built into this budget?
That is correct. Yep,
Thank you.
contractual agreements. You got it.
Any further questions or discussion? Mr. English?
Thank you. I'm just going to this, while it applies to this article, it's a comment for overall. We just have to, as we go through the budget, we have to keep in mind that while the budget-to-budget number was pretty low, that we're actually asking the local taxpayers to pay an additional 4.7% over last year's. And when we close in, added the 50 extra thousand that you took out of fund balance to keep it down, it actually means that this year's budget is using taxpayer funds of 5.15% more than last year. Last year's budget was 5.5%. So for the budget that we're currently in now and the one that we're proposing, we have over a 10% increase in local tax dollars because we lost state funding. So when you give budget to budget, and I know the game, I do it lots of places, I've done it before, but for taxpayers, it's going to be over 2 years, over 10%, and this year it's going to be a 5% increase in local funds, 50,000 fund balance, which is ours, right, that we overpaid in the past, and then the increase that you have. So we just all need to keep that in mind as we go through the articles, and as we go into the next step after this. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll just remind people to try to keep the comments to the categories as we go. Your comments are well taken, but would have been more appropriate under Article 12. All right, questions? Again, this is regarding regular instruction.
So once we vote on Articles, 1 through 11, and we've decided how much we're going to spend, then we have a discussion on how much we're going to charge the taxpayers for this. And we've already made those decisions, really, because the budget has already, the expenditures are already there. So I guess I feel like I would agree with the gentleman here that this needs, that the overall budget needs to be considered as we go through each article, because otherwise, how are we going to get this to pass in a reasonable way? So I think the follow-up question I would have is, if this doesn't pass at the towns, how will you, or have you been thinking about how much will regular instruction need to decrease in order to get a budget that will pass?
Any further questions or discussion? All right, seeing none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor, please raise your paddles. Those opposed? That motion carries. Article 2, to see what sum the RSU will be authorized to expend for special education. School board recommends $5,514,845. Motion, please. It's been moved. Is there a second? And seconded? Any questions or discussion? Seeing none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor? Those opposed? That motion carries. Article 3, to see what sum the RSU will be authorized to expend for career and technical education. School board recommends $13,328. Motion, please. It's been moved. Is there a second? And seconded. Any questions or discussion?
Superintendent Aliberti started out by giving us an overview of what was in Article 1. We seem to have skipped any type of explanation what was in Article 2 before it was moved and voted on. So now that we're in Article 3, if we could have an overview of what's in the article, and
Sure.
if we could do that for each of the subsequent articles, please.
No problem at all.
All right, before we do that, I guess what I'll ask is if you could give an overview of the budget, and you can go through all the articles, but you're supposed to do a presentation of the budget to this committee, who are here, and I think we should just do it as an overall, rather than go article by article, or would you rather go article by article?
No, I'd rather go article by article.
Oh.
And I say that only because if I sit here and just rattle off what's included in each of these cost centers at the beginning here, I think it's going to get convoluted. I don't think people will understand what specifically we're talking about as we go through it. So, I would rather go article by article.
All right, do you want to do, I know we've already voted on Article 2, but do
Sure.
you want to do a brief overview of Article 2?
Zero issue with that,
Sure.
Randy. So as far as Article 2 is concerned, special education, so this is our special education teachers, our resource room and self-contained teachers, special education technicians, speech and language teacher, special education director, our special education administrative assistants, special education social worker, and extended school year staff. We also have contracted services in this cost center, that is speech and language teachers, board certified behavior analysts, occupational therapists, physical therapists, psychologist services, specialized instructional software, reading and math curriculums for specifically designed instruction, supplies and materials for functional life skills, behavior support programs, and last but not least, supplies and materials for related services, speech, occupational therapy, physical therapy, psychology.
All right, how about on Article 3?
You got it. So Article 3 is essentially the money that we pay Lewiston Regional Technical Center or the Lewiston School Department to be a part of their programming there. We currently have 90 students from Oak Hill High School who participate in this program, and the reason for the increase is additional programming that is being offered at the Edward Little campus in the way of landscaping. And so there's a fair amount of money that's gone into that program, and that's why you can see that increase.
All right, so I'll recap. The motion on the floor was for $13,328. It has been moved and seconded. Is there any further discussion? Seeing, yes, ma'am.
So I'm assuming that the two teachers, because this is all going to Lewiston, the other two teachers aren't in this. They were probably in the previous article.
One was in the previous
One was,
article,
okay.
correct. Yep.
Okay, and again, I'm going to ask you, should we have to cut the budget? Have you thought about, because it doesn't pass in the towns, have you thought about what portions of this budget and whether it might have an opportunity for lower costs?
Sure. So, I mean, you prepare, right, for the possibility that it won't pass. I mean, with that being said, we've done a fair amount of work to get it as low as possible without affecting programming. We get to a point where we start looking at additional staff or other areas to cut, that's where it begins to hurt. So there is a balance to that. But are we thinking about those things in case something like that does occur? Absolutely.
All right, any further questions or discussion? Seeing none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor? Those opposed? That motion carries. Article 4, to see what's on the RSU will be authorized to expend for other instruction. The school board recommends $529,992. Motion, please.
So moved.
It's been moved and seconded. Superintendent Alberti.
Thank you, Randy. So included in this cost center are high school and middle school athletic directors, a stipend for the assistant to the athletic director, stipends for athletics, fall, winter, and spring seasons, stipends for co-curricular clubs and activities, our summer school staffing, vacation school staffing. Other expenditures include game day workers, our athletic trainer, supplies and uniforms, equipment, repairs and maintenance, services, including officials, securities, and porta potties.
All right, thank you. Any questions or discussion?
So I have
It's good.
questions.
Appreciate it.
What proportion of this budget goes to athletics versus other activities?
I don't know. I'd have to look at the, like, what the percentage is. Do you mean we say
Yeah.
other activities?
Like ballpark, yeah, like co-curricular activities
This is,
or.
it's all included in this. Co-curricular.
Right, but what, how,
split?
if you were to split that out
Yeah, it
between
would-
athletics and other things?
Yeah, I can tell you if you just give me a minute. I say that
Okay.
I'll have
And I'm
Sam
also
take a look at it. Is
interested
that
in the
something?
number of students we have participating in these activities.
Yeah, so that information is online. We have it in,
Okay, there's no internet here, so I can't go online.
yeah, prior to, right? I'm saying, because just for your, for, you know,
Right.
for your information, like all of the information or the information you're asking about in regards to participation, that's been
Yeah.
on there since we started the budget process, you know, in January.
Uh-huh.
So that's there, and you're welcome to take a look at it. I mean, you know, I can't necessarily give you that information off the top of my
Okay.
head. Yeah. We can work on the other aspect of things. Yeah, the split.
All right, any other questions or discussion, and we'll come back to that.
Rocky from Sabatis. I'd like to make an amendment to the motion.
You'd like to make an amendment?
Sorry, I'm losing my voice too. Rocky from Sabatis. I'd like to make an amendment to the motion of the proposed 529,992 and reduce that to 504,992 on the sole basis of not actually bringing field hockey out of the rec club and leaving where it is. And they want to move it to the middle school, and I believe we should just leave it where it is at the rec.
Okay, is there a second? It's been seconded. All right, so we have an amendment to make that number on Article 4, $504,992. Is there any discussion? All right. Question, did you have a answer to the previous question, or is it still?
No, we're still
Okay.
working on it, Randy. Thank you.
Okay. All right. Any further discussion? All right, so we would first vote on the amendment. The amendment amount is $504,992. If that passes, it becomes a motion. If it fails, we then go back to the original motion. Are there any questions? Okay.
My name is Robin, I'm from Sioux Fork, and I want to know,
Yeah, can you use the microphone, please? Excuse me, ma'am, can you use the microphone, please?
Yeah, okay, my name is Robin up to Sioux Fork from Litchfield, and I only heard half of what you said, so could you explain it to me, because it was a little confusing to me.
Again, Rocky from Sabatis. I made the motion based off of, they want to move field hockey from the Sabatis Rec Club into the middle school, and I would like to keep it where it is. I don't think that it'll benefit the girls with moving it to the middle school. The way that they work that is it would be 6th, 7th, and 8th grade on the field hockey team, and as you know, the 6th graders would see a lot of bench time because the more veteran players would get more play time. Excuse me. More play time, and I think that it'll just discourage them. I'm a very big advocate for sports for our youth. I think that it builds a lot of great character, and that's my reason for removing that from that cost center.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions or discussion? Yes.
Just so you're aware, seventh and eighth graders will be the ones playing field hockey, correct? Is that correct, Mr. Daniels? With possibility of some sixth graders playing if it does pass? Can you explain that?
I'm sorry, could you just repeat the question just so I know exactly?
Will it destroy the rec department's program if we only have, it will only be seventh and eighth graders with a possibility of some sixth graders playing, is that correct?
It all depends on the numbers that are there. So if they need, if we don't have enough athletes at the middle school to field a full team for seventh and eighth graders, then we would allow sixth graders to play. According to our league rules, we don't allow fifth graders to participate. So I can't really give you a clean answer because it all depends on the amount of athletes that sign up.
And are we currently the only middle school that does not have an at-school program?
In our athletic conference, yes. Across the state, no.
So we're the only school that has a rec field hockey team?
In our immediate conference, yes.
Yes. Thank you.
Brian,
All right.
sorry, the girls that don't play for the middle school, are they still going to have the option to play for rec?
Absolutely, yeah. So the rec program has been thriving for years. They have a lot of parents who are heavily involved and a lot of athletes who are participating, going up through the ranks. So they have a pretty healthy program that's thriving. So regardless of how this moves, the athletes will still have the opportunity to participate in field hockey.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, any further questions or discussion? All right, so this amended amount is a $25,000 reduction from the original request. Seeing no more discussion, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor of the amended amount of $504,992, please raise your hand. Those opposed? That motion carries and now becomes a main motion. So the motion on the floor now is for $504,992 for Article 4. Is there any further discussion? Is this further discussion, or are you ready for the vote?
Further discussion, but with an ask of Mr. Daniels as being the athletic director at the middle school, under the assumption that if, like you said, if we didn't have enough players to suit the 7-8 team, so we asked sixth graders, if the sixth graders play for the middle school team, they are not eligible to play for rec, correct?
So the question was, if sixth graders are playing on the middle school team, are they no longer eligible to play for rec? Is that correct? Yeah. So they are still eligible to play for both. We do have sixth grade athletes that play back and forth for a lot of sports. Typically, when it comes to middle school athletics, because we don't cut students at this age, that we encourage sixth graders to often play both rec and the school sport, with the assumption that seventh and eighth graders can no longer play rec sports for a lot of the sports. So we don't cut them, that way they always have the opportunity. So the MPA does not govern middle school athletics like it does high school, so it doesn't have some of those same regulations that determine athletes from playing in-season sports with out-of-season sports at the same time. So a sixth grader could potentially play on the rec team and the school team, assuming the schedules align and they have the physical ability to.
All right. I'll just ask one last time. Did you happen to have an answer for the breakout that was asked earlier?
Yes, Randy. So we currently spend 1.65% of the total budget on middle school and high school sports.
Okay, thank you very much. Does that answer your question? Does that answer your question? Okay.
Yeah, sorry. So it's 1.65% of the total budget goes to middle school and high school sports, which is which, yeah.
Let me try to rephrase the question. I think the question was, of the 500, the original ask, the 529,992, what portion of that is for co-curricular non-athletic, and what portion would be for athletic? Is that what your question is? Okay.
Yeah, thank you for the clarification and the help there. So it's, it's 73% of this is on athletics.
73% for athletic.
Correct.
Okay. All right. So the motion on the floor is for Article 4 for $504,992. Any further discussion? Seeing none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor? Those opposed? That motion carries. Article 5, to see what sum the RSU will be authorized to expend for student and staff support. The school board recommends $2,634,252. Motion, please. It's been moved. Is there a second? It's been seconded. Any questions or Superintendent Alberti?
Thanks, Randy. So just overview again of Cost Center 5. So this includes our guidance department staff, director of guidance, our school counselors, social workers, guidance administrative assistant, health services staff, our curriculum coordinator, library services staff, which is our head librarian and library ed techs, technology staff, director of technology, network specialist, IT technicians. This also includes supplies, books and periodicals, furniture, dues and fees, employment, training and development, and associated travel, travel reimbursement, assessments, field trips, specific software for the department, our medical director, and library database subscriptions. There's also centralized employee training and development and associated travel, tuition reimbursement, contracted services, instructional software, curriculum materials. Also included is instructional technology, our iPad lease, hardware and equipment, and cyber security.
Thank you. Any questions or discussion? Seeing none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor? Those opposed? That motion carries. Article 6, to see what sum the RSU will be authorized to expend for system administration. The school board recommends $818,535. Motion, please. It's been moved. Is there a second? It's been seconded. Any, Superintendent Alberti?
Appreciate it, Randy. Thank you again. So Cost Center 6 is our system administration. This includes our Office of the Superintendent staff, the superintendent, administrative assistant to the superintendent, our business department staff, our business manager, payroll specialists, accounts payable specialists, and other things included in here are legal and audit fees, school board costs, ADS accounting software, frontline absent management and timesheet software, employment, training, and travel reimbursement, office supplies, staff appreciation funds, dues and memberships, postage, and copier lease.
Any questions or discussion? Seeing none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor? Those opposed? That motion carries. Article 7, to see what sum the RSU will be authorized to expend for school administration. The school board recommends $1,143,147. Motion, please. It's been moved. Is there a second? It's been seconded. Any question, Superintendent?
Thank you. In this cost center, we have our building principals and assistant principals, assistants to the principals, postage and postage meters, office supplies, dues and fees, staff recognition, travel reimbursement, professional development, books and periodicals, graduation supplies and services.
Is there any questions or discussion? Seeing none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor? Those opposed? That motion carries. Article 8, to see what sum the RSU will be authorized to expend for transportation and buses. The school board recommends $1,404,252. Motion, please. It's been moved in the back. Seconded. Superintendent Aliberti.
Thank you. This is our Transportation Cost Center. This includes the Director of Transportation, our head bus driver, bus drivers and bus mechanic, our AAA fire inspections, occupational health, our bus right and easy pass systems, tires repair and maintenance, bus garage lease, utilities and snow removal, insurance for buses and district vehicles, transportation supplies, bus fuel, radio tower lease.
Thank you. Any questions or discussion?
So this is one of two cost centers that you have a decrease in the budget. We are seeing gas prices go up. Is that accounted for in this budget?
It is. The nice thing.
How are you getting the decrease, I guess?
Yeah, so, specifically, we've made some adjustments to reflect our bus garage lease. So if you're not familiar, we're recently entered into an agreement to lease space so that we can work on our own buses. And so that's saved us a lot of money. We don't have to have our buses go elsewhere to be serviced at an exorbitant amount of money per hour. We have somebody in-house who can do majority of the work there. So it's a smart move on our part there. The other piece, and specifically to gas prices, and you're right, gas prices are rising. We're fortunate enough that we have a contract that goes through 2027 where we have a specific rate for all of our diesel fuel per gallon. That's a 3-year contract. Actually, it might be even longer than that. Three years. Thanks, Sheena. 3-year contract.
All right, thank you. Any further questions or discussion? Seeing none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor? Those opposed? That motion carries. Article 9, to see what sum the RSU will be authorized to expend for facilities maintenance. The school board recommends $3,229,144. Motion, please. It's been moved and seconded. Superintendent Aliberti.
Thank you again, Randy. So facilities and maintenance, in this cost center, we have our half of our director of operations, which is shared with school nutrition. Head custodians, our custodians both morning and afternoon, our school resource officer contract, snow removal, repairs and maintenance, custodial supplies. We have our energy costs included in here, liquid propane, oil and electricity, energy performance contracts and project payments, equipment, facility inspections and services.
Thank you. Any questions or discussion? Seeing none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor? All those opposed? That motion carries. Article 10, to see what sum the RSU will be authorized to expend for debt service and other commitments. The school board recommends $0. Motion, please. It's been moved. Is there a second? It has been seconded. Brief explanation because it's a small amount.
We don't have any debt service.
Okay. Any questions or discussion? All right, seeing none. All those in favor? All those opposed? That motion carries. Article 11, to see what sum the RSU will be authorized to expend for all other expenditures. The school board recommends $0. Motion, please. It's been moved and seconded. Brief explanation?
And again, we don't have any other expenditures.
Thank you. Any questions or discussion? Seeing none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor? Those opposed? That motion carries. Article 12, to see what sum the RSU will appropriate for the total cost of funding public education from pre-kindergarten to grade 12 as described in the Essential Programs and Services Funding Act, and to see what sum the RSU will raise and assess as each municipality's contribution to the total cost of funding public education from pre-kindergarten to grade 12, as described in the Essential Programs and Services Funding Act in accordance with the Maine Revised Statutes Title 20A, Section 15688. Recommended amount set forth below for the town of Litchfield, $6,335,506.34. To be raised by the municipality of Litchfield, $3,315,026.25. Town of Sabattis, $8,788,908.22 was the total. To be raised by the town of Sabattis individually, $2,902,282.66. Town of Wales, total appropriated $3,239,371.94. Amount to be raised by the town of Wales individually, $1,071,326.91. The total is $18,363,786.50. The total raised by the three local municipalities is $7,288,635.82. Motion, please. It's been moved and seconded. Brief explanation?
I mean, you said it already, Randy, but this is our required local, it's our required portion of the budget in order to receive subsidy from the state.
Any questions or discussion? Seeing none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor? Please keep them up because I have to do a count. Those opposed? Thank you. Yes.
That number is not with the cost center that was reduced.
That doesn't change.
That doesn't change in this
Okay.
center.
Thank you for that clarification.
We were already prepping
Yeah,
for the
you-
next
We
article.
got it, Christie, yeah.
Thank you.
Just
Oh,
to
we appreciate it.
clarify, this is the amount of money that has to be raised locally in order to receive the state portion. This is not where you want to make any reductions. All right, Article 13. This will require a written ballot. I'll read the article. To see what sum the RSU will raise and appropriate in additional local funds, recommend $4,182,824, which exceeds the state's essential programs and services allocation model by $4,182,824, as required to fund the budget recommended by the school board. The school board recommends $4,182,824, which exceeds the state's essential programs and services allocation model by $4,182,824 due to inequities in the EPS funding formula, including but not limited to the regional labor market adjustment factor, student-teacher ratios, extra and co-curricular programs, and administrative costs. Motion, please. Can I clarify? I'm going to recognize Nicole for the motion.
Can I change the number right now?
I'm looking for a motion.
A motion, yes. I'd like to motion for $4,157,824.
Can you repeat that number?
$4,157,824.
Let me check your math before I accept a second. Hold on. Your math appears to be correct. Is there a second? It's been seconded. Brief explanation?
So this is the local addition requirement that we're asking so that we can meet our budget.
All right. Any questions or discussion?
So for informational purposes, to the lady from Litchfield who said that once we approve all the articles, the funding's set, that's not true. Changes to this article and Article 14 will say how much money they can raise locally and how much the school board will be allowed to expend. So if somebody wanted to just lower the number, not picking a particular article to do it on, then you have an opportunity on this article and the next to do that. School board always hopes that if someone wants to lower the number, they at least offer an explanation on where they would like that money to come out of. Although it's not binding to the school board that that's where it is, it does give them some guidance on where they might want to look. So if somebody is not happy with the 5% increase in local funds or the 4.7, whichever number you want to use, then these numbers in this article and the next one could be lowered in order to save on the commitment.
Any further questions or discussion? All right. What color ballot will we be using? Lilac. All right. Seeing no further discussion, I'm going to just a reminder, this is a written ballot per statute. We'll be voting with a lilac colored ballot that you can get from the clerks in the back. And I would ask if you would move. We will now begin voting, and grab your ballot and please vote in the ballot box. Yes, please bring your paddles in order to get your ballot. This is a yes or no vote. If you need assistance with voting, please get my attention and I will bring a clerk and we will assist you with voting if you do not carry anybody else's ballot other than your own.
Was stuffy in here.
Yeah.
We opened it. Now
Let's shut it.
everybody but one person is going to use it.
I'm fine. I have a very nice sweatshirt. Oh my gosh, in July, we were dying.
Hopefully, we don't have to do that.
We're not gonna.
I know, I really am. I know. It's too bad because that team.
All right, has everybody voted who wishes? Does anybody need assistance with voting? If so, please raise your hand now. Seeing none, I will declare the ballot box closed and the counting will begin.
TJ lives in Mexico, Maine. They have to be members of the community. They have to swear them in because they count the ballots. No. Do you see they're up there? They're the only two doing it. This is a whole learning. And so many people in the community, they don't have any idea that, right?
There was 2 ladies that did it.
They used to work for Sabatis, and they lived in Sabatis.
Trying to remember. I didn't really stare at it. I remember now.
All right, can I have your attention, please? Article 13, 32 voters present, 26 voted yes, 6 voted no. That was all 32 voters voted. The motion carries. Article 14, to see what sum the RSU will authorize the school board to expend for the fiscal year beginning July 1, 2026 and ending June 30, 2027 from the RSU's contribution to the total cost of funding public education from pre-kindergarten to grade 12 as described in the Essential Programs and Services Funding Act, local funds for non-state funded school construction, debt services, additional local funds for school purposes, school purposes under the Maine Revised Statutes Title 20A, Section 15690, unexpended balances, tuition receipts, state subsidy, and other receipts for the support of schools. The school board recommends $23,499,794. Motion, please. Nicole.
Mr. Moderator, I'd like to motion for $23,474,794.
Your motion was for $474,794. Is there a second? It has been seconded. Any questions or discussion?
I would just like to note that the percent change is now 1.46%.
Thank you. Any questions or discussion? Yes, ma'am.
Sorry I couldn't get here for the public hearing, but there is a construction, you had a public hearing on some sort of construction. Is that going to cause a debt and with debt service in the future that would affect this budget?
So the state is very particular about what they consider debt service. It's state-approved construction projects, so it won't cause debt service, so it won't be in cost center 10, but it will have a loan tied to it with a portion that is forgiven. The portion that we repay is repaid over 10 years at 0% interest, and that payment, that annual payment, is included in this budget, which was voted on for cost center 9.
Any further questions or discussion? All right, seeing none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor? Those opposed? That motion carries. Article 15, to see if the RSU will raise and appropriate $151,641 for the school nutrition program with authorization to expend any additional, incidental, or miscellaneous receipts in the interest and for the well-being of the school nutrition program. Motion, please.
So moved.
It has been moved. Is there a second? Second. It has been seconded. Brief explanation, Superintendent.
Sure. So just for information for everyone, so we are reimbursed for our meals when it comes to the nutrition program. However, the reimbursement does not cover the entire portion of the cost of a meal. And so that's why local tax dollars are raised to cover that cost.
All right. Any questions or discussion? All right. Seeing none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor? All those opposed? That motion carries. Article 16, to see if the RSU will appropriate $92,564 for adult education and raise $33,034 as the local share with authorization to expend any additional incidental or miscellaneous receipts in the interest for the well-being of the adult education program. Motion, please.
So moved.
It's been moved. Is there a second?
Second.
It's been seconded. Brief explanation.
So,
Superintendent.
yep, so similar to nutrition aspect of things, there are local dollars that are used to cover the costs of adult education. Just a note here, we did receive additional revenue from the state in this cost center, just in specific to working with our students aged 16 to 20. So it was a gain for us.
Thank you. Any questions or discussion regarding adult education? Seeing none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor? Those opposed? That motion carries. Article 17. In addition to the amounts approved in the preceding articles, shall the school board be authorized to expend such other sums as may be received from federal or state grants or programs or other sources during the fiscal year for the school and other program purposes, provided that such grants, programs, or other sources do not require the expenditure of other funds not previously appropriated. Motion, please. It's been moved. Is there a second?
Second.
It's been seconded. Any question, brief explanation?
Sure. So just this gives us authorization, as it says, to expend any federal or state grants that we may receive, specifically, or for example, I should say, our title grants that we receive. So we're able to use those for funding programming and potential positions that we may need in the school district.
Any questions or discussion? Seeing none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor? Those opposed? That motion carries. Article 18, shall the school board be authorized to transfer up to $150,000 from available fund balances at the end of the 2025-2026 fiscal year to the Capital Reserve Fund and to expend from the Capital Reserve Fund at the discretion of the board during the upcoming fiscal year? It's been moved. Is there a second? Moved and seconded. Brief explanation?
Sure. So just a bit of history here. This a reserve fund is like a savings account. This was established last year by the board, and we were able to put aside some money for a windows and siding project at Libby Tozier. It was specifically earmarked for that. So that work is scheduled to start as soon as school gets out. So the amount that we're looking to move from our fund balance to this account this year is $150,000, and that's earmarked to start saving for a new roof at Libby Tozier as it's nearing its end of life.
Any questions or discussion? Yes, sir.
Thank you. So those who were on the board with me, I always objected to reserve funds because they're money we have. So you start a reserve fund and you want to put money in, that means you intentionally build your budget so that we'll have a fund balance left over at the end so that you can move it into your reserve funds. So what you're doing is padding the budget so that you can put money in the reserve funds instead of putting into the budget what it is that you want the capital reserve fund to go and do. So in this particular one, you established it last year, you put it in, you already knew what you were going to do. That's not a capital reserve fund. Capital reserve funds go for a long time for a major project that comes up that you don't know what's going to happen. So this is a Peter and Paul thing. You know, if you know what you're going to do, you put it in the budget. And if you know how much money you want to be able to move, you got to make sure that much money is going to be left over in your fund balance at the end of the year. So I don't know what is left in the reserve fund that you established last year, if you spent it all, or if there's a balance left. That would be nice to know. We get that at our town meetings for any items that are set aside. And then if you know what you're going to spend it on the next year, why didn't you put it in the budget instead of wanting to just shift it into a capital reserve to take it back out again? So, and I see you're going to ask for another one in the next article. So that's the problem with reserve funds. It makes you bloat the budget so that you have money to move to reserve funds.
All right, I think there was a question there, was how much is remaining in the capital reserve for that line?
So the entirety of that amount that we put aside last year will be used on this project for this year.
All right. Any further questions or discussion? Yes, ma'am.
You spoke about a roof being end of life, so do you anticipate those expenses happening in the next 12 to 18 months or further out from then?
No, further out than that. Thank you.
Any further questions or discussion? All right, seeing none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor? All those opposed? Motion carries. Article 19, shall the school board be authorized to establish a special education reserve fund for the purpose of funding unanticipated special education expenditures, to transfer up to $50,000 from available fund balance at the end of the 2025-2026 fiscal year to the Special Education Reserve Fund, and to expend from the Special Education Reserve Fund in the discretion of the school board during the upcoming fiscal year. Motion, please. It's been moved. Is there a second? It has been seconded. Any questions or discussion?
Randy, I can give a brief explanation.
Brief
if you don't
explanation,
mind.
thank you.
So similar to the Capital Reserve Fund, this establishes a fund for our special education costs, specifically for out-of-district placements. For those of you that are not familiar with that, if we aren't able to meet the students' needs through our regular special education programming here in the school district, we may need to seek an outside placement for that student. Those costs are exorbitant. They cost an extreme amount of money each year for students to attend those programming. The money is well worth spending, as it supports the students and their needs as they progress through the school or their schooling. And it's variable, right? So we budget for a certain amount. However, we do have students that move in and may need an out-of-district placement. And so by setting this fund up and putting money aside for it, or not putting it into the local budget and having taxes increase.
Question, any further questions? Yes, ma'am.
So the first question is, obviously you don't know your student population for sure next year, so you don't know for sure you're out of system placements, but you probably know some of them because they've been placed before, and that is already in the budget. And so this would be a reserve in case you had additional students needing those services.
That is correct.
Okay. My second question has to do with fund balances, because we're talking about these funds coming, using funds from a fund balance. In your budget, you have 600,000 out of the regular budget plus 85,000 propose coming from balances into the school nutrition, and then the 150 for the capital fund, and then this 50,000. So what's that fund balance? Does that take care of that full fund balance, or do we have other balances that are just sitting there unallocated?
Yes, so the answer to that question is yes. We do have funds that are unallocated, right? So that's what that's called, is a fund balance. The state allows us to carry, it used to be 3% of the total budget year to year. That is now up to 9%, just given, again, the costs of the number of variables that we may see during a given school year. And so you're right, there are monies there that are undesignated at this point in time. So, part of the reason is that, we use those to help offset local taxes. We use them to fund these reserve accounts. We use them to help, fund our school nutrition, all of those different pieces.
Any further questions or discussion?
So I know this year's not over and the audit hasn't happened, but what is the total in the fund balance as of the last audit?
1,297,356, so just under 1.3 million, which is about 26,000 less than last year's fund balance.
Okay, and this time of year, you're always looking at what you're expected, so you can shift funds around what you expect the fund balance or the carryover you're going to have this year. Any ballpark number for this year?
We're in the middle of that process, looking at expenses to date, revenue to date, and potential year-end projects that in the maintenance cost center specifically might need attention before the close of the fiscal year. So I don't have a ballpark for you right now, but we're in the process.
Okay. So I'm a strong believer in special education. I've always supported it when I was on the board. I continue to support it to this day, and I will going forward. But I'm not a big proponent of the fund balance, and I understand why the reserve fund. I can understand why you want it, so that you get an unexpected, you have the money available, but 50,000 doesn't cover nothing for out-of-district placement. You might get half of a student, maybe one student.
Right.
Right, so it's not very much. And the problem with fund balances is if you've got $1.2 million of our money that you're just holding on to that you've collected in the past. And my money won't do me any good 10 years from now. I won't lower my taxes 10 years from now. I'll be gone. But, so when you have a fund balance that you allow to be 3% was legit, 9% must have been asked for by some big school districts that could have some big things that they wanted to have up to 9%, but that's a huge amount of money of our tax dollars that you're just holding on to in a fund balance and not using to pay down. As Robbie remembers years and years ago, we formed the RSU, we took all of the fund balances and poured them back in to lower the taxes, and the goal was every year. The following year after the audit, we would take the fund balance and dispense it wholly into the budget because those people had already paid for education, for taxes, and we wouldn't have to raise it again. So that was a thought many years ago in all three towns, I believe. Sabattis and Wales was, and I wasn't involved in Litchfield at that time. But it was when the RSU formed too. So perhaps a rethink of what we want to do with fund balances. And if you really need to fund something, then make it 50,000 is not much.
Thank you. Yes. No, you have a microphone. You're fine.
Sam, 1.3 million is what percentage of our budget?
5.61 of last year, so
Yeah.
we're under 9.
Yeah,
by
we're
quite a
under
bit,
9,
yeah.
5.61. Also, I feel like it's important to address some of the concerns with extra money being incorporated into the budget to allow for us to have the 150. Last year, we had a couple of significant things that came up that actually decreased costs that we had pre-planned for, right? If I remember right, with the transportation costs, we had budgeted for a certain amount, and some things had come in under what we expected. And those are one of the many ways that we have additional funds as opposed to putting in costs that would go nowhere, you know. Another one that comes to mind, but you could account better, is unfortunately sometimes we have unfilled positions, and their salary, we want the position filled, but we did not fill it. That salary is then just extra in the budget for that time being. In the past, in the 3 years that I've now been on the board, in the past we usually try to incorporate that money back into the taxes. We're trying to now be more proactive and incorporate it into a reserve account so we can pay for the school instead of asking taxpayers in the future to pay for the school out of that pocket, you know, that kind of thing. So it's not a padding, I guess, is what I'm trying to try to attest. And again, we went over the budget for 2.5 months, almost every week this year, and they're all online. You can definitely go through and see us talk about each line item. We went through every line item to make sure that we could streamline it to the point that we voted get our own pay down from $25 to $10 just to streamline even that. So I guess with all the work that went in, I just want to acknowledge that publicly. I feel like I couldn't sit here and not acknowledge that we put a lot of work into that, and that there are things, the way the budget process works, the money, there's always going to be a kind of a shift of money in there. And again, we try very hard to be very transparent about that during the processes. And you can show up to meetings and ask questions like that in the meetings, especially during the budget season in February and March. Those are questions we are more than happy to try to answer right then and there on the spot, if at all possible, while those numbers are right in front of us.
All right, thank you. Any further questions or discussion? Yes.
So I heard from the gentleman over here that $50,000 is not enough for one student's out of placement. So if you have one additional student, even with this reserve, you would not have the money to pay for that student. Is that correct?
It completely depends. It depends on the placement of that student. So there's various costs in the different institutions. So a public out-of-district tuition placement is a lot less expensive than a private one. Even the private schools have a lot of variation between their costs. It depends on when the student moves in. If they move in September 1, there's going to be more costs throughout the year than if they move in December 1st, right? So there's a lot of variation, but that, to me, that embodies the special ed reserve account. Like, you're planning for the what if, and we're hopeful that the what if is not the most expensive for the longest amount of time.
And what if the what if is above that 50,000? What do you do?
Yeah, I mean, just like you would do in your home budget, right? So as we set the budget, we go through the 2.5 month, 3 month process of trying to plan for the future. But with all budgetary considerations, what you hope to happen or what you think will happen never works out exactly as it is planned to, and so you check and adjust. You keep the student needs first.
Please don't interrupt, ma'am. Let her finish.
Okay, sorry.
Yeah, we try to have a student-centered approach and keep the student needs first. And as things change throughout the year, based on what we planned, we try to make the best decisions with the resources that this body and the voting public on the referendum day give us the dollars to spend to meet the needs of the students.
All right. Any further questions or follow-up?
Yes. Does the school have the ability to shift from one cost center to another within a certain percentage? Okay.
That's correct. Yep. Just one more thing I was going to add is our Director of Special Education Services, Justin Kelleher, is, obviously the expert in this area. And so we're in consultation with him, what makes sense, and so this was a recommended amount or, team approach as far as the amount that we think is appropriate for the time being. You're welcome.
All right. Any further questions or discussion? Mr. English.
Yeah, Doug, you mentioned that you lowered your stipends. I believe, if I remember correct, that the stipends had to be between a certain dollar amount, and any changes, though, had to be approved at a town meeting? So, just one time?
Only-
Only if it's
I'll-
going up?
I'll take that. You know,
Okay.
statute requires a town vote and meeting on that if it is increased, not
Okay.
decreased.
I wasn't quite sure, I just wanted to
And
know.
the range was 10 is the min and 25
Was the
max.
maximum initially, yes, okay,
Mhm.
thank you.
All right. Any further questions or discussion? Seeing none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor? All those opposed? That motion carries. That was our last article. Just a reminder, this is step 1 of 2. There would be a budget validation referendum. Nicole, do you have a quick announcement on that? No? Okay. Sharon, what is Election Day?
Yeah, I was going to say.
I was just pointing to the presentation, though. It is right there, yeah.
All right.
June
Just-
9th. I can do it, Randy, if you don't want to.
Yeah, yes, June 9th, 2026, or you may request absentee ballots beginning tomorrow at your municipal town office. Litchfield votes at the Sportsman's Club, 2261 Hollowell Road. The hours are 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. Sabatis Town Office, 190 Middle Road, 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. And Wales, once again, the Overachiever, 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. at 175 Center Road. Any further announcements?
No, but just thank you. I appreciate everybody's
Thank you
attendance.
very
All
much.
right. Seeing no further business to come before this meeting, I declare the meeting adjourned.